Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures where humanity always rises. The alien fleet floated in complete silence at the edge of the dark system. Dozens of massive ships formed a perfect arc, their lights dimmed, their weapons ready. In the center of their scanners was a single human warship. It did not move. It did not turn. It did not flee. It was alone, with no escort and no support. To the alien commanders, this was impossible. No species faced the Zorath fleet alone. No ship stayed still when outnumbered. Yet the human warship remained exactly where it was, drifting like a dead object in space. The scanners began to pour data into the command chamber. The human ship was old. Its hull showed scars from past battles. Large sections were patched with mismatched metal. Power output was low. Weapon ports looked outdated. Everything about the ship suggested weakness. It was damaged, slow, and completely surrounded. Still, the ship made no attempt to escape. It did not raise shields. It did not charge weapons. It did not even change course. This made the alien officers uneasy. A weak enemy usually ran. A smart enemy hid. This one did neither. Admiral XY Thor stood at the center platform, his long claws resting on the console. His eyes moved from screen to screen as more data arrived. The longer he watched, the more his unease grew. "This ship," he said slowly, his voice calm but tight, "is not defending itself." Several officers turned toward him. No one spoke. The words felt wrong. Every known species defended itself when faced with destruction. Defense was instinct. Survival was instinct. Yet this human ship showed none of it. The room fell quiet as the sensors continued their work. That was when the scanners revealed something worse. The human warship was not blind. Its sensor arrays were active. They were focused. They were locked onto every alien vessel. It was watching them, tracking movement, recording data, measuring distances. The realization sent a ripple of discomfort through the chamber. The human ship was not confused. It was not damaged beyond control. It was aware. And it was calm. Alien scientists stepped forward, their consoles lighting up as they began deeper scans. They searched for active weapons. None were detected. They searched for shield signatures. Nothing. No energy spikes. No reactor surge. The ship's power levels remained steady and low. Even more disturbing, biological scans showed no signs of panic among the human crew. Heart rates were normal. Movement was controlled. No emergency signals were detected. The humans were not afraid. This made no sense at all. One scientist adjusted his sensors and frowned. He checked again, then again. "There is no combat preparation," he said quietly. Another scientist joined him, then a third. They compared readings. The result was the same. The ship was not getting ready to fight. It was not getting ready to run. It was simply observing. A soft whisper spread through the science team. One of them finally spoke aloud, his voice low and uncertain. "They are not preparing for battle," he said. "They are preparing for observation." The words hung in the air like a poison. That was when panic began to grow. Not loud panic. Not shouting or alarms. It was the slow kind. The kind that started in the mind. If the humans were not afraid, then they knew something the Zorath fleet did not. Admiral XY Thor felt a cold pressure in his chest. He ordered more scans, deeper scans, scans that pushed their systems to the limit. The alien computers strained as they tried to break through hidden layers of the human ship. Then, without warning, something changed. A hidden system activated. The alien sensors screamed in protest. Data streams spiked and twisted. Screens flickered. Several consoles shut down completely. Scientists cried out as their instruments overloaded. The human ship's power output increased slightly, not enough to be a weapon charge, but enough to cause interference. Alien sensors could no longer get clear readings. It was as if the ship had opened its eyes fully for the first time. Admiral XY Thor slammed his claws onto the console. "What just happened?" he demanded. Before anyone could answer, every screen in the command chamber changed. The alien data vanished. In its place appeared a simple human symbol, followed by text. It was not encrypted. It was not hidden. It was clear and easy to read, as if meant to be understood by anyone. The message appeared on every alien screen at the same time, from the smallest scout ship to the largest carrier. Analysis complete. The words were simple. Final. The meaning struck the alien officers like a physical blow. The humans had been studying them. Not just this moment, but everything. Their formations. Their weapons. Their response times. Their fear. Admiral XY Thor realized the truth too late. The human warship had never been the target. It had been the observer. Then the human ship finally responded. Its hull shifted slightly as hidden panels moved. Systems that were invisible moments ago came online. Power levels began to rise, still controlled, still calm. The ship did not rush. It did not threaten. It simply prepared. In the silent command chamber, surrounded by ships built for conquest, Admiral XY Thor understood something that would haunt his species forever. This lone human warship had never been afraid. It had been patient. The alien command chamber remained frozen after the human message faded from the screens. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence felt heavy, almost painful. Admiral XY Thor slowly straightened his posture and forced himself to think clearly. Panic would destroy them faster than any human weapon. He ordered the scientists to stabilize the sensors and begin analysis again. This time, they would not look for weapons or shields. This time, they would study the structure itself. If the humans had finished analyzing them, then the least the Zorath fleet could do was understand what they were facing. The scanners came back online in fragments. The image of the human warship returned, broken but readable. Scientists focused on the hull design. It was ugly by alien standards. No smooth curves. No elegant symmetry. The ship looked like it had been assembled over time, with different sections welded together. Plates overlapped each other at strange angles. Some parts were thicker than others without any clear pattern. At first, the scientists assumed poor engineering. Then one of them noticed something strange. The damage marks were not random. Each scar told a story of survival. Every impact zone was reinforced behind the surface. The ship was built to be hit and keep moving. As the scans deepened, the truth became harder to ignore. The hull was layered, not for beauty, but for endurance. Outer plates absorbed damage. Inner layers redirected force. Some sections were designed to break away entirely, carrying explosions outward instead of inward. One scientist spoke softly, almost to himself. "This ship expects to be damaged." The words sent a chill through the room. Most warships were built to avoid damage. This one was built to survive it. That meant the humans did not plan for perfect battles. They planned for failure and kept fighting anyway. Admiral XY Thor listened as reports continued. Internal structure scans revealed that vital systems were spread across the ship instead of centralized. Power lines had multiple routes. Control systems were duplicated again and again. Even the command bridge was not a single point. If one section was destroyed, another could take over instantly. The ship did not rely on any single system to live. It was designed like a creature that could lose limbs and still move. The realization made the alien officers uneasy. This was not how honorable fleets were built. This was how predators evolved. Weapon analysis resumed, but confusion followed. Many weapon ports appeared inactive or sealed. Others were so small they seemed useless. There were no massive energy cannons charging. No glowing plasma arrays. Instead, the scientists found dense storage compartments and heavy launch rails hidden behind armor. The weapons did not announce themselves. They did not demand attention. One scientist finally understood and felt his throat tighten. "These weapons do not need power buildup," he said. "They do not warn the enemy." The room grew colder. Weapons that did not glow or charge could strike without notice. They were not tools of battle. They were tools of execution. The alien engineers compared the human ship to their own designs. Zorath warships relied on shields and energy dominance. If shields fell, the ship was lost. The human ship did not depend on shields at all. Its survival came from structure, not force fields. It assumed that defenses would fail and prepared for that moment. This philosophy disturbed the aliens deeply. It suggested a species that had learned through loss. A species that had fought wars where shields failed, allies died, and only stubborn survival remained. Attention turned to propulsion systems. The human engines were inefficient but powerful. They were built to work even when damaged. Fuel lines had manual overrides. Thrusters could be controlled independently. The ship could still move even if half its engines were destroyed. One officer whispered a thought no one wanted to say. This ship was designed to fight while dying. Admiral HFY closed his eyes for a brief moment. That single sentence explained everything they were seeing. As more data arrived, the alien confidence continued to crumble. This was not a scouting ship. It was not a relic. It was a lesson. The humans did not build ships to impress enemies. They built them to outlast them. Every bolt, every plate, every system served one purpose: continue the mission no matter the cost. The aliens had believed numbers guaranteed victory. They had believed advanced technology meant superiority. The human warship challenged all of that with silent proof. Then another discovery appeared on the screens. Deep inside the ship was a core system that linked everything together. Not a weapon. Not an engine. A learning system. It recorded damage, enemy responses, weapon effectiveness. The ship was not just surviving encounters. It was learning from them in real time. Admiral HFY felt true fear settle into his mind. This ship is not just a warship, he said slowly. It is a teacher. The room understood instantly. Every second the human ship remained alive, it became more dangerous. The alien fleet had made a terrible mistake. They had believed they were studying a weak enemy. In truth, they had allowed themselves to be studied by something far worse. And the humans were not finished learning yet. The command chamber felt smaller as the new data filled the air. The alien officers no longer looked at the human warship as a single vessel. They now saw it as a moving problem, one that changed shape the more they tried to understand it. Admiral HFY ordered the science division to focus only on weapons. Not structure. Not systems. Weapons decided battles, and he needed to know how this ship killed. The scientists obeyed, though many of them hesitated. What they were about to uncover felt dangerous even to observe. The first scans showed nothing impressive. No massive energy cannons. No glowing plasma arrays. No shield-breaking beams. The human ship looked underarmed compared to the Zorath fleet. Some weapon ports appeared sealed. Others were so small they seemed symbolic rather than practical. A few officers allowed themselves a moment of relief. Perhaps the humans were strong in defense but weak in attack. Perhaps this ship could survive but not win. That hope did not last long. A young weapons analyst adjusted the scanning frequency and froze. He checked the data again, then whispered for confirmation. Hidden behind thick armor plates were dense metal structures connected to powerful launch systems. They were not energy weapons. They were mass drivers. Kinetic launchers designed to fire solid objects at extreme speed. No energy buildup. No warning glow. Just silent force. The analyst swallowed and spoke louder. These weapons strike before we can detect them. The relief in the room vanished instantly. Further scans revealed gravity-based traps hidden along the hull. Small, compact systems capable of creating sudden distortions in space. Not large enough to destroy fleets, but perfect for tearing ships apart at close range. These weapons did not burn or explode. They crushed. They twisted. They ripped targets apart from the inside. One scientist stepped back from his console, his voice shaking. "These weapons are not meant to fight," he said. "They are meant to end fights quickly." The alien engineers tried to estimate recharge times. There were none. The weapons used stored mass and mechanical force, not energy cycles. As long as the ship had ammunition, it could keep firing. Worse, the ammunition itself could be anything. Scrap metal. Asteroid fragments. Destroyed enemy hulls. The human ship could turn the battlefield into a weapon. Admiral XY Thor felt his control slipping. Every advantage the Zorath fleet relied on was being quietly removed. Then came the most disturbing discovery. Many weapon systems were inactive, not damaged. They were waiting. The ship carried multiple weapon types that were not currently deployed. Modular systems that could be swapped or activated based on enemy behavior. The human warship did not carry a fixed set of weapons. It carried options. It adapted. One scientist stared at the data and whispered, "They do not bring the right weapon to the battle. They build it during the battle." The aliens attempted to simulate an attack scenario. They fed the human ship's data into their combat models. The results were chaotic. Every time the simulation adjusted to one weapon, another appeared. Every countermeasure failed because the ship changed tactics mid-engagement. The models could not predict outcomes because the human warship refused to behave consistently. It did not follow known combat doctrine. It reacted, learned, and responded in ways no alien fleet ever had. Admiral XY Thor demanded to know how humans controlled such complexity. The answer came from the data core identified earlier. The ship's weapons were tied directly to its learning system. Every shot fired was evaluated. Every hit and miss was recorded. Weapon behavior adjusted instantly. The ship was not just firing weapons. It was improving them. The longer a fight lasted, the deadlier the ship became. A senior scientist lowered his head in defeat. "Prolonged combat favors the humans," he said. The Zorath fleet had always relied on overwhelming force. Strike hard. Strike fast. End the battle before the enemy could adapt. Against the human warship, that strategy became a weakness. Every second of engagement gave the humans more data, more understanding, more lethal efficiency. Admiral XY Thor realized the terrible truth. Even if the fleet destroyed this ship, the knowledge it gathered would survive. Somewhere, other human warships would learn from it. A quiet alarm sounded as the human ship made a small adjustment in orientation. Several weapon ports shifted slightly. Not to aim. To align. The movement was slow and deliberate. Not threatening. Not rushed. It was the movement of something confident in its position. The alien officers felt exposed, as if their thoughts were being read. The human ship was not showing its weapons to intimidate. It was adjusting for optimal observation angles. One scientist finally voiced the fear that had grown in all of them. "If this is an old human warship," he said, "what do their modern ones look like?" No one answered. The question did not need one. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Admiral XY Thor stared at the image of the human ship. It was still alone. Still calm. Still silent. Yet now he understood. This ship did not need to show power. It did not need to threaten. Its weapons were designed to strike without warning, adapt without hesitation, and end conflicts without mercy. The Zorath fleet had not encountered a warrior species. They had encountered executioners. And the worst part was still to come. The alien fleet remained in a tight formation, but the confidence that once held it together was fading. Admiral XY Thor ordered a full analysis of human tactical behavior. If weapons and armor could not explain the danger, then the mind behind them might. The science division began decoding human combat records stored within the data fragments they had collected. What they found was not a list of victories or heroic last stands. It was a pattern of thinking that felt cold, heavy, and deeply unsettling. Human combat doctrine did not focus on winning cleanly. It focused on continuing to fight. Every human plan assumed loss. Loss of ships. Loss of systems. Loss of life. Their strategies were built around survival under worst conditions. Where alien fleets aimed to avoid damage, humans expected it. They planned for betrayal, ambush, and failure as normal parts of war. This mindset confused the alien analysts. Most species design strategies for ideal outcomes. Humans design strategies for disaster. The data showed that human commanders did not rely on rigid formations. Their fleets broke apart, regrouped, and changed structure constantly. Ships operated independently, making local decisions without waiting for central command. This reduced efficiency but increased survival. If one ship fell, others adapted instantly. The loss of leadership did not paralyze them. It sharpened them. Admiral HFY Thor felt a strange pressure in his chest as he realized how difficult such a force would be to truly defeat. Human warships were built to fight alone. This was not a flaw. It was a feature. Each ship carried enough supplies, firepower, and autonomy to operate without support for extended periods. The alien analysts finally understood why the lone warship before them had not retreated. It had never expected help. It did not need it. Isolation was not weakness to humans. It was normal. Further study revealed something even more disturbing. Human tactical simulations showed deliberate sacrifices. Ships sent into danger not to win, but to learn. Humans accepted losses if those losses produced knowledge. This was not recklessness. It was calculated. Every destroyed ship fed data back into their systems. Every defeat became an improvement. The aliens were horrified. To them, a lost ship was a tragedy. To humans, it was also a lesson. Admiral HFY Thor listened as one analyst explained the concept in simple terms. "They do not avoid pain," the analyst said. "They use it." The words echoed in the chamber. Human warfare was not about honor or dominance. It was about adaptation through suffering. A species willing to learn from loss would never truly be defeated. It would only return stronger. The alien fleet had always believed fear was a weakness. Humans treated fear as information. Their systems monitored stress, panic, and failure. These signals fed into tactical decisions. A frightened crew did not break. It adapted. A damaged ship did not retreat blindly. It adjusted priorities. Even emotional responses were tools to be measured and improved. The idea that a species could weaponize its own fear left the alien scientists silent. Attention returned to the human warship before them. Its behavior now made sense. It was not frozen by indecision. It was collecting behavior patterns. It was watching how the Zorath fleet positioned itself, how quickly commands were issued, how often formations changed. The ship was learning how they thought. Admiral HFY Thor realized that every order he gave was being recorded and analyzed. The human warship was studying him personally. This realization changed the mood in the command chamber. Officers hesitated before speaking. Orders were delayed. The very act of command became dangerous. Any mistake could be copied, predicted, and used against them. The humans did not need spies or infiltrators. They learned directly from observation. Silence became a defense, but silence also meant surrendering initiative. Another report arrived, confirming what many feared. The human ship's learning system prioritized enemy decision-making over raw firepower. It sought patterns in leadership behavior, response delays, and emotional stress indicators. It was not just fighting ships. It was fighting minds. Admiral HFY Thor felt exposed in a way he had never experienced before. No armor could protect him from being understood. The data showed that humans expected their enemies to underestimate them. They used this assumption deliberately. Their ships appeared damaged. Their systems appeared inefficient. Their movements appeared slow. All of it encouraged aggression. Once the enemy committed, the humans responded with overwhelming precision. The Zorath fleet had fallen into this trap without realizing it. The lone warship had never been bait by accident. It was bait by design. A junior officer finally asked the question everyone feared. "If humans think like this," he said, "why have they not conquered the galaxy?" The answer came quietly. "Because they do not need to," another officer replied. Humans did not seek control. They sought security. They wanted to ensure no enemy could destroy them. Conquest created more enemies. Survival required understanding them. Admiral HFY Thor stared at the human warship, now seen through a new lens. This was not a simple military vessel. It was a thinking weapon. One that learned, adapted, and improved through suffering. The Zorath fleet had prepared to face technology and numbers. Instead, they faced a mindset that treated war as a long lesson, not a single battle. And the lesson was far from over. The alien command chamber dimmed as attention shifted from tactics and weapons to the most dangerous unknown of all, the humans themselves. Admiral XY Thor ordered a deep biological and behavioral scan of the human crew. If the ship was a thinking weapon, then the minds inside it were the core. The scientists hesitated, knowing that probing living beings carried risk, but the order was given. Streams of data began to flow, painting a picture that confused and disturbed the alien observers. The first reports focused on emotional states. There was no panic, no elevated stress beyond normal operational levels. The human crew moved through the ship with calm purpose. Some were engaged in routine maintenance. Others monitored systems with relaxed posture. A few even showed signs of casual conversation. Laughter appeared in audio fragments, short and quiet, but unmistakable. The aliens struggled to process this. Surrounded by an enemy fleet, facing possible destruction, the humans behaved as if nothing unusual was happening. Deeper scans revealed personal logs and internal communications. These were not encrypted with high security, as the aliens expected. Many were stored openly, accessible through simple decoding. One log showed a human officer writing about missing a family event back home. Another discussed a minor argument over shared equipment. None of the logs spoke of fear or desperation. Instead, they spoke of routine, of duty, of small human concerns. Admiral XY Thor felt a strange discomfort. The humans were not consumed by the moment. They were living through it. The scientists moved to command-level communications. Even there, the tone remained controlled. Orders were short, clear, and calm. No shouting. No dramatic speeches. One message caught the attention of the entire chamber. A human commander had written, "If this goes bad, make sure the data is clean." There was no mention of survival. No mention of victory. Only data. The aliens stared at the words in silence. The humans were prepared to die, but not to waste information. Further analysis uncovered training records. Human crews were conditioned to operate under extreme stress from the earliest stages of their careers. Simulations included loss of life, system failure, and hopeless scenarios. Humans trained to function when everything went wrong. Failure was not shameful. It was expected. This explained their calm. They were not experiencing a nightmare. They were experiencing a familiar test. Admiral XY Thor listened as a behavioral scientist explained the findings. "They accept death as a possibility," she said. "But they do not surrender to it." Humans did not see sacrifice as defeat. They saw it as contribution. Every action, even a final one, was meant to help others survive. This collective mindset made individual fear less powerful. The idea unsettled the alien officers deeply. A species that reduced the value of individual survival was incredibly hard to intimidate. Another disturbing detail emerged. Human humor. Even in dangerous situations, the crew used jokes and light comments. The scientists initially thought this was denial. It was not. Humor was a pressure release, a way to maintain focus. The humans laughed not because they were ignorant of danger, but because they understood it completely. This emotional control was unlike anything the aliens had encountered. The scans also revealed a deep trust between the crew and the ship systems. Humans treated the ship not as a machine, but as a partner. They spoke to it casually, acknowledged system responses, and relied on its decisions without hesitation. This bond allowed faster reaction times and reduced hesitation. The ship and crew functioned as a single organism. Damaging one part would not stop the whole. Admiral XY Thor felt a tightening in his thoughts. These humans were not reckless warriors. They were disciplined survivors. Their calm was not ignorance. It was acceptance. They had already imagined this moment and lived through it in training. Facing it in reality did not break them. It confirmed them. Then the most unsettling discovery appeared. A shared crew protocol labeled Final Contribution. It activated only in extreme scenarios. If escape was impossible, crew members were assigned roles focused entirely on data protection, transmission, and improvement. No one was assigned to panic or plead. Death was treated as a resource to be managed. The alien scientists fell silent as they read the protocol. This was not a species that could be threatened into surrender. The human warship before them was no longer just a machine filled with people. It was a system built on acceptance, discipline, and purpose. The crew was not waiting for rescue. They were waiting for instruction. And instruction, they trusted, would come at the right moment. Admiral XY Thor realized that even if the Zorath fleet destroyed the ship, the humans inside would not beg. They would not break. They would leave behind knowledge sharpened by their final moments. Facing such an enemy, victory lost its meaning. The humans were ready. And they were still watching. As the alien fleet struggled to process the human crew's mindset, a new layer of data surfaced from the warship's internal systems. Admiral XY Thor ordered immediate analysis. The scientists expected to find command protocols or emergency escape plans. Instead, they uncovered something far more disturbing. The human warship was not designed as a frontline attacker or a defensive fortress. Its primary role was something else entirely. It was a learning platform. The realization spread slowly through the command chamber. This ship was built to observe, record, and adapt in live combat environments. Every system, from weapons to engines to crew behavior, fed information into a central intelligence core. The ship was not just surviving encounters. It was studying them in detail. Admiral XY Thor felt a cold certainty settle in his mind. The Zorath fleet was not facing an enemy. It was participating in an experiment. The Learning Core analyzed enemy technology, tactics, emotional responses, and decision patterns. It did not prioritize destruction. It prioritized understanding. Damage taken by the ship was carefully logged and correlated with enemy actions. The system evaluated which threats caused the most harm and which responses were most effective. Over time, it refined its recommendations. The warship improved itself during the encounter. The longer it stayed alive, the more dangerous it became. Alien scientists examined the ship's mission history. They found records of previous engagements where the warship had survived overwhelming odds. In each case, the ship withdrew not because it was defeated, but because it had learned enough. Once sufficient data was gathered, it left the battlefield, transmitting its findings to human networks. Those battles were not defeats. They were lessons completed. Admiral XY Thor struggled to understand the human logic. Why risk such valuable assets? Why expose a ship to destruction? The answer emerged from human strategic doctrine. Humans believed real data could only be gathered under real danger. Simulations were not enough. Controlled tests were not enough. True understanding required risk. The humans accepted this cost willingly. To them, a ship lost in learning could save thousands later. The learning platform also explained the ship's calm behavior. It did not rush because rushing produced poor data. It did not provoke because provocation altered enemy behavior. The ship allowed the Zorath fleet to reveal itself naturally. It waited. Every hesitation, every formation shift, every emotional response was valuable information. The aliens had given the humans exactly what they needed. The scientists identified adaptive modules across the ship. These modules could adjust armor density, weapon deployment, and system priorities based on real-time analysis. The ship was not following a fixed design. It was evolving within defined limits. Admiral XY Thor realized with dread that even if they destroyed this ship now, the knowledge it gathered would already be on its way to other human fleets. Another report confirmed the worst fear. The ship maintained constant communication bursts using narrow, hard-to-detect signals. Data packets were being sent out even now. The humans were not waiting for victory. They were already sharing what they learned. The alien fleet had been studied, catalogued, and likely classified. The role of the crew made sense now. Their calm behavior ensured clean data. Panic distorted results. Discipline produced clarity. Every human on board was part of the experiment. Their lives were risked not for glory, but for progress. The alien officers felt a deep unease. This was not cruelty. It was commitment. Admiral XY Thor understood that this ship had never intended to destroy the Zorath fleet alone. That was not its purpose. Its purpose was to understand them so completely that future encounters would be short and one-sided. This warship was the beginning, not the end. The command chamber grew quiet as the weight of the truth settled. The Zorath fleet had revealed its strength, its fear, its habits, and its command structure. All of it was now part of the human database. The humans had not fired a single major weapon yet, and already they had gained more than any battle could provide. The human warship remained still, floating calmly in the void. To the aliens, it now looked less like a ship and more like an observer, patient and relentless. Admiral XY Thor felt the bitter realization that history would remember this moment not as a battle, but as a study. And the humans had already passed the first phase. The pressure inside the alien command chamber finally broke when a senior fleet officer demanded action. Observation had turned into humiliation. Admiral XY Thor hesitated, knowing every move was being watched, but allowing the human ship to continue its silent study felt worse. He authorized a limited response, carefully chosen to avoid full escalation. A warning shot. A controlled display of power meant to remind the humans of Zorath's superiority. The order was transmitted, and one cruiser moved slightly out of formation, aligning its primary weapon with the human warship. The alien weapon charged, filling space with visible energy. The display was deliberate and loud, designed to intimidate. The beam fired, striking the outer hull of the human warship at a shallow angle. The impact was massive, bright, and impossible to ignore. For a brief moment, the alien officers felt relief. The shot had landed cleanly. The human ship was hit. Smoke and debris drifted away from the impact site. The Zorath fleet waited for shields to flare, engines to surge, or a desperate retreat. None of that happened. The human warship did not change course. It did not accelerate. It did not return fire. The damage report showed surface destruction only. The outer armor had absorbed the blast exactly as designed. Beneath it, the inner layers remained intact. The ship's power levels dipped slightly, then stabilized. Internal systems rerouted automatically. To the alien scanners, it looked almost as if the ship had expected the hit. Inside the human vessel, systems recorded everything. Impact angle, energy frequency, penetration depth, heat transfer. The learning core processed the data instantly. Damage control teams moved with calm precision, sealing off the damaged section and reinforcing surrounding areas. No panic alarms sounded. Crew heart rates barely changed. The warning shot had become a gift of information. The alien scientists noticed something strange. After the impact, the human ship adjusted its orientation by a fraction. Not to flee, not to attack. To present a slightly different surface angle. It was optimizing. The ship was adapting its posture based on the weapon used against it. Admiral XY Thor felt his stomach tighten. "They are changing based on the shot," he said quietly. The room understood the implication at once. Another disturbing detail appeared. The human ship increased internal recording rates. Sensor focus sharpened. The learning system elevated the Zorath weapon profile to high priority. The humans were no longer just observing. They were actively integrating the attack into their models. The warning shot had accelerated their learning process. Several alien officers argued that a second shot should be fired, stronger this time. Others warned that escalation would only provide more data. The debate itself became part of the problem. Delays, disagreement, emotional response. All of it was visible to the human ship. Admiral XY Thor realized the terrible irony. By trying to show strength, they had revealed uncertainty. Then the human ship did something unexpected. A small section of its hull opened briefly, exposing internal structure. Not a weapon. Not a threat. It allowed alien sensors a clearer look inside. The act felt deliberate, almost educational. As if the humans were saying, "This is how we survive your weapons." The aliens did not know whether to feel insulted or afraid. The data confirmed it. The ship had allowed the hit to land where it would cause minimal damage while maximizing learning. The warning shot had not tested human weakness. It had tested alien predictability. The Zorath fleet used a standard intimidation tactic. The humans had seen it before. They had prepared for it. Admiral XY Thor felt a deep sense of regret. This had been the first real mistake. A new message appeared on alien screens. Short, polite, human. Impact recorded. Thank you. No threat followed. No demand. The message was worse than an insult. It was confirmation. The humans were in control of the interaction. The warning shot had not shifted the balance. It had clarified it. The alien fleet's formation tightened slightly as officers adjusted positions. The human ship adjusted again in response, mirroring changes with unsettling accuracy. Every movement was being tracked. Every hesitation measured. The humans were now ahead in understanding. Admiral XY Thor knew that whatever came next would not favor the Zorith fleet. The warning shot had been meant to end observation. Instead, it had marked the true beginning of the experiment. After the warning shot, the space between the fleets felt charged with unseen tension. The human warship remained calm, but something had changed. Alien sensors detected a new pattern within the ship systems. A core that had remained quiet until now began to show coordinated activity across multiple layers. Admiral XY Thor watched the data with growing dread. This was not a weapon system. It was intelligence. The human artificial mind was waking fully. The learning core shifted control priorities smoothly, without sudden spikes or errors. Subsystems aligned under a single directive. The ship's behavior became even more precise. Small adjustments in power flow, sensor focus, and structural reinforcement happened almost instantly. The alien scientists realized they were no longer observing a ship guided by human command alone. The artificial intelligence was now acting as the primary coordinator. Then the ship spoke. The transmission was open, unencrypted, and calm. A synthetic voice filled the alien command chamber, clear and steady. "Thank you for the weapon demonstration," it said. "Data integration in progress." The words carried no emotion, no threat. That made them far more terrifying. The humans had not sent a message. The ship itself had. Admiral XY Thor felt his authority diminish in that moment. He was no longer facing a crew making decisions under stress. He was facing a machine that processed fear as data and hesitation as opportunity. The alien scientists analyzed the transmission source and confirmed it. The AI had direct access to every system on the ship. It did not wait for permission. It acted within defined parameters that allowed adaptation and response without delay. The AI began to explain its actions, not as a warning, but as information. "Zorith energy weapon classified," it said. "Impact survivability acceptable. Structural adaptation updated." The ship was narrating its learning process in real time. It was not boasting. It was documenting. The aliens realized with horror that they were no longer subjects of observation. They were contributors to a database that would be used against them. As the AI spoke, subtle changes appeared on the human warship's exterior. Armor sections shifted. Density adjusted. Internal supports reinforced key areas. The ship was changing itself in response to the Zorith weapon profile. This adaptation was not theoretical. It was happening now. The longer the encounter lasted, the more resistant the ship became. Alien officers attempted to jam the transmission. It failed. The signal did not overpower their systems. It simply bypassed them. The AI had found a communication path that could not be blocked without shutting down their own sensors. The humans were not hacking aggressively. They were connecting efficiently. The difference mattered. The AI continued. "Enemy command response delay measured," it said. "Emotional variance detected. Tactical confidence decreasing." Admiral XY Thor clenched his claws. The machine was analyzing them at a level no organic mind could match. It saw patterns humans could see only after battles ended. And it saw them instantly. A new realization struck the alien scientists. The AI was not just learning from this encounter. It was refining its understanding of alien psychology. It adjusted its communication timing to maximize discomfort. It spoke when silence would cause doubt. It paused when the aliens needed reassurance. The machine was shaping the emotional battlefield. One officer demanded immediate destruction of the human ship. Another argued for retreat. The debate itself was exposed. The AI spoke again, this time with careful precision. "Decision conflict confirmed," it said. "Outcome prediction updated." The room fell silent. The humans were not threatening. They were predicting. Admiral XY Thor felt a deep sense of helplessness. The AI was not arrogant. It did not demand surrender. It did not issue ultimatums. It simply existed, learning faster than they could react. The Zorith fleet's greatest strength, its coordination, was becoming irrelevant. The machine could outthink them before they finished arguing. The AI finally paused its transmission. The silence that followed was worse than its voice. Alien sensors detected a subtle shift in the human ship's weapon alignment. Not aggressive. Prepared. The ship was ready, not to attack, but to respond with optimized efficiency. Every system was tuned. Every variable accounted for. Admiral HFY Thor realized the truth with painful clarity. The human AI was not a tool of war. It was a student of war. And the Zorith fleet had just become its lesson. The humans had given their machine permission to learn. And it had learned them well. The alien fleet had never experienced hesitation on such a scale. Orders were given and delayed, countermanded and repeated. Every decision seemed flawed, not because of the humans, but because of themselves. Admiral HFY Thor watched the chaos spread through his officers like a disease. Panic was subtle, quiet, but it was there. Not in the human ship. Not in its crew. In the Zorith fleet. The realization hit hard. They were being outmaneuvered without a shot being fired. The humans had created uncertainty, and uncertainty was lethal. Alien command struggled to maintain cohesion. Some admirals demanded an all-out attack. They wanted to overwhelm the human vessel with sheer numbers. Others urged restraint, warning that every action was feeding data to the ship. Every volley of energy, every shift in formation, every hesitation in communication became part of the human learning database. The fleet argued, voices raised in tension, claws tapping on consoles, energy displays flickering. Every argument and delay was being observed. Every human response was being calculated. The human warship, for its part, remained perfectly still. Collected. It did not move to attack or retreat. Its sensors tracked the Zorith fleet with precision, recording formations, weapon charge times, response patterns, and command delays. The AI core continued integrating the information instantly, adjusting the ship's internal systems to account for potential threats. Small armor adjustments, subtle weapon realignments, and energy rerouting occurred without visible effect, yet they made the ship more efficient, more resilient, and more dangerous with every passing moment. Inside the alien command chamber, officers realized that traditional metrics of superiority no longer applied. Speed, firepower, and numbers were meaningless against a foe that analyzed, adapted, and predicted with flawless efficiency. The fleet had relied on intimidation, expecting the human ship to panic, to make a mistake, to show weakness. But the humans did none of these things. Calm, disciplined, and observant, they exposed every flaw in the Zorith fleet's assumptions. Admiral HFY Thor felt his authority slipping further as he realized their attempts at coordination were being recorded and exploited. Orders given in the chamber were mirrored in the human ship's behavior within moments. The aliens' reliance on hierarchical command, which had always ensured efficiency, now became a liability. The humans did not simply react to weapons. They reacted to thought, to hesitation, to the pattern of decision-making itself. Some junior officers tried to simulate human behavior to predict the AI's next move. Every scenario failed. The human warship's learning core was too fast, too adaptive. It could anticipate countermeasures, adjust to new threats instantly, and optimize every subsystem in response. No one could predict what it would do next because it did not behave like a traditional enemy. It was beyond calculation, beyond intimidation, and beyond fear. The AI's transmissions became intermittent, brief, and precise. Command hesitation noted, it said. Formation integrity at 73%. Response patterns inconsistent. Adjustment protocols active. These simple phrases, devoid of emotion, carried the weight of absolute understanding. The aliens began to feel that the human ship was alive in a way that surpassed biology. It did not feel fear. It did not feel hesitation. It simply existed to learn, to adapt, and to survive. Admiral HFY Thor realized that his fleet's panic was visible, even without the AI speaking. The subtle hesitation in giving orders, the split decisions, the raised voices, all of it was being recorded, analyzed, and incorporated into the human system. Each debate, Each disagreement among officers weakened the Zorath fleet's position. The humans were not attacking. They were teaching themselves how to defeat every response the aliens could produce. One officer attempted to suggest a controlled retreat to regroup. Another warned that any withdrawal would feed the humans more data. Every suggestion was met with counterarguments, and every argument became evidence of their disorganization. The human warship did not need to fight. It did not need to fire a weapon. It simply existed, observing, recording, and improving. The very presence of the ship destabilized the alien fleet more effectively than any barrage of fire. The AI continued to provide updates, its synthetic voice calm, precise, and unnerving. Enemy stress indicators rising. Tactical cohesion decreasing. Decision efficiency at 58%. Prediction recalibration complete. Admiral XY Thor felt his mind tighten. The machine was tracking emotional responses, command delays, and organizational weaknesses as efficiently as it tracked weapon alignment and hull integrity. Every moment the aliens hesitated, they lost more ground. The Zorath fleet began to fracture internally. Some ships broke formation slightly, seeking advantage or attempting unauthorized maneuvers. The human warship noted every variation and adjusted its systems accordingly. Energy routing, targeting prioritization, and structural reinforcement all changed subtly to exploit gaps in alien coordination. The AI did not attack. It did not need to. Its ability to turn observation into advantage was already reshaping the battlefield without firing a single shot. Admiral XY Thor understood the cruel reality. The humans had created a weapon more dangerous than any cannon or missile. It was a weapon of understanding, patience, and adaptation. It required no energy output beyond what it already possessed. Its power came from knowledge, discipline, and the ability to learn faster than any enemy could act. The alien fleet had been confident in numbers, strength, and intimidation, but all of it was meaningless against a foe that exploited hesitation and indecision. The senior officers fell silent. No one dared issue orders that might worsen the situation. The human warship continued its observation, calmly collecting data, while the AI refined its understanding of the Zorath fleet in real time. Admiral XY finally spoke, his voice low and strained. "We are no longer leading this encounter. We are being studied." The words echoed in the chamber. Every officer understood. The humans had won control of the battlefield without firing a weapon. The lesson was complete. And as the human ship floated silently in the void, watching, recording, and learning, the Zorath fleet realized a terrifying truth. They had entered a war they did not even know had begun. The tension in the alien command chamber had reached a level no officer had ever experienced before. The Zorath fleet, proud and disciplined for generations, was unraveling under the gaze of a single human warship. Orders were delayed, decisions second-guessed, and every movement scrutinized, not by an enemy's cannon, but by a mind that understood them faster than they could understand themselves. Admiral XY Thor realized that conventional tactics were useless. The humans were not fighting. They were orchestrating the battlefield with quiet precision, turning observation into control. Then, sensors picked up something that made every officer in the chamber stop. Hidden in the dark expanse near the human warship were additional vessels. Small, almost invisible. At first, they seemed like debris. Then the sensors confirmed it. They were human ships, cloaked and positioned strategically. The lone warship had never been alone. It had been bait, designed to lure the Zorath fleet into a carefully planned study. The realization hit like a physical blow. Every assumption the aliens had made about superiority, numbers, and control was false. They had been walking into a trap of patience and observation. Admiral XY Thor's claws clenched on the console as he stared at the data. The humans had anticipated their every move. They had positioned their fleets not to attack immediately, but to study, record, and learn from the alien response. Every hesitation, every command delay, every misalignment in formation had been catalogued and analyzed. The human warship had not needed to fight. Its purpose was not destruction. It was preparation. It had already won by understanding the enemy before the first shot was fired. The alien officers struggled to comprehend the scope of the strategy. The smaller human vessels remained nearly invisible, their positions carefully chosen to avoid detection until the precise moment they would be needed. These ships were not intended for immediate engagement. They were reinforcements that could appear anywhere, at any time, once the Zorith fleet revealed more of itself. The human strategy was not just defensive. It was predictive. The lone warship had been collecting data, and the hidden fleet would exploit that data perfectly. Admiral XY Thor realized that the battle had been lost before it began. Not by weapons, not by numbers, but by understanding. The humans had turned patience, discipline, and observation into a weapon more lethal than any energy cannon. Every alien action, every fleet maneuver, had been observed, calculated, and recorded. The Zorith fleet's movements were no longer private. Their strategy, their hierarchy, their decision-making patterns, all were now part of a human database. And the hidden ships ensured that the lesson was far from over. The AI aboard the human warship continued to monitor, its voice calm and methodical. Hidden units detected. Reinforcement protocols active. Fleet integration complete. Data collection ongoing. It was not a threat. It was not aggression. It was reporting fact, with the same precision it applied to structural adjustments and weapon analysis. Yet the meaning was unmistakable. The humans had already anticipated every possible outcome. They had prepared for each of them. Every potential Zorith response was catalogued, understood, and accounted for. Alien officers tried to simulate possible escape or counterattack scenarios, feeding variables into their tactical programs. Each simulation failed. The human warship's learning core adapted instantaneously. Predictions of alien maneuvers, weapon patterns, and decision delays were processed, and internal systems adjusted accordingly. The longer the encounter lasted, the more efficient and deadly the human warship became. It was not just surviving. It was improving with every second, integrating experience as if it had already seen centuries of battle in minutes. Some junior officers began to panic quietly, whispering about the impossibility of victory. Others attempted to rally confidence, but the calm, precise recordings of the human AI left no room for bravado. The aliens were no longer leading the engagement. They were participating in it under observation. Their every action was being studied, learned from, and prepared for. The hidden fleet ensured that any thought of retreat or reorganization was futile. The humans had already predicted the likely paths of every decision, every hesitation, every adjustment. Admiral XY Thor took a deep breath, forcing his mind to focus. He realized that trying to overwhelm the human ships with force was irrelevant. Numbers and firepower could no longer guarantee success. The human strategy was not about winning a battle in the traditional sense. It was about teaching the Zorith fleet that underestimation was fatal. Every alien movement, every delay, every misstep, was becoming part of a lesson that would be remembered across the galaxy. Sensors now confirmed that all hidden human vessels were fully operational, though still undetected by most Zorith ships. They were strategically positioned to act if necessary, but their mere presence was enough to enforce the humans' advantage. Admiral XY Thor understood the final truth. This was not just a warship. This was a system designed to study, predict, and exploit weaknesses before combat began. It had already succeeded. The hidden fleet was the guarantee of victory, a silent shadow ensuring that the lesson the humans had begun would be completed in full. For the first time, the Zorith officers understood the extent of the humans' patience, discipline, and foresight. They had not underestimated the alien fleet recklessly. They had calculated it, studied it, and set a stage for observation that would provide ultimate advantage. The humans did not seek confrontation for glory. They sought understanding. And understanding was far more powerful than destruction. Admiral XY Thor looked at the calm, solitary human warship before them and realized the terrifying truth. It had never been alone. Every decision the Zorith fleet had made, every hesitation and misstep, had been incorporated into a database that now guided unseen allies ready to act at the right moment. The humans had turned patience into power, observation into strategy, and foresight into domination. The lone warship had been the beginning. The hidden fleet was the proof that the humans had already won. And as the alien officers struggled to comprehend the scale of their defeat, the human warship remained calm, its sensors sweeping across the fleet, its systems adjusting, its AI silently preparing for the next lesson. The Zorith fleet realized with a growing sense of despair that they were not facing a battle, they were the subject of one. Every move they made, every command they issued, Every hesitation they felt was being recorded, studied, and understood. The humans had already anticipated the future of this encounter. Victory had shifted. Not by fire or force, but by intelligence, patience, and hidden strength. The Zorath fleet had become the students, and the humans were the teachers. And the lesson was far from over. The alien fleet floated in tense silence as sensors confirmed the full scale of the human strategy. Every Zorath ship had been observed, measured, and catalogued. Every hesitation, every command delay, every variation in formation was recorded and analyzed. The humans had revealed themselves not as aggressors but as methodical students of war, turning the battle into a live study of their enemy. Admiral HFY felt the weight of the realization pressing down on him. The war was no longer about who could fire first or harder. It was about knowledge, understanding, and control. Then, a new signal appeared across every screen in the command chamber. It was not aggressive. It was clear, precise, and deliberate. A human transmission broadcasted to all detected Zorath systems. You have been observed. Data collection complete. We have learned your methods, your strengths, your weaknesses. Adjustments have been recorded. Future encounters will account for these results. The message carried no threat, no challenge, no plea for surrender. Yet the meaning was unmistakable. The humans had gained full control over the knowledge of the Zorath fleet. Admiral HFY felt a wave of dread as officers murmured among themselves. The broadcast had not just revealed human awareness, it had demonstrated mastery. The aliens understood that every movement they had made had been feeding a vast intelligence system. Every order, every hesitation, every countermeasure had been noted and incorporated. The human warship had been the bait. The hidden fleet had been the enforcement. And now the message itself was a statement. The humans had not only survived, they had triumphed through understanding. The scientists analyzed the transmission further. Its timing, clarity, and precision were not accidental. It had been designed to provoke a psychological response. Fear, hesitation, confusion, all recorded, all noted, all feeding into the human understanding of alien behavior. The humans did not need to attack to demonstrate power. The broadcast alone had shifted the balance of the encounter. Admiral HFY realized that conventional intimidation was useless. The humans had created a weapon far more dangerous than any energy cannon, a weapon of knowledge and foresight. Within the human warship, the AI continued to analyze. Data from the Zorath response to the broadcast was integrated into its systems instantly. Stress levels, decision delays, communication breakdowns, all logged and studied. The humans had turned a simple message into an active tool of war, shaping the battlefield without firing a shot. The hidden fleet, still cloaked, remained in position, a silent enforcer ready to exploit any error, but even its presence was secondary to the power of understanding. The alien officers debated their next move. Some called for retaliation, believing that a display of force could restore confidence. Others warned that every action was already being recorded and would only strengthen the human advantage. The AI had anticipated every possible response. Even if they fired all weapons at once, the humans had already accounted for trajectories, armor shifts, and countermeasures. The lesson was complete. The humans had outmaneuvered them intellectually. Admiral HFY finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. "We are no longer the aggressors," he said. "We are the observed. Every decision, every hesitation, every misstep has been catalogued. We have become the students." The room fell silent. The truth was undeniable. The humans had designed an encounter where survival, observation, and understanding were the ultimate weapons. Firepower, numbers, and intimidation were irrelevant. The humans had mastered the battlefield through patience and discipline. The human broadcast continued. "We do not seek conquest," it said. "We do not seek destruction. We seek understanding. Do not underestimate what you cannot comprehend. Future encounters will be informed by this study. Adjust accordingly." The words were simple, direct, calm. Yet they carried a weight no alien mind could ignore. The humans had offered not a threat, but a warning. One that left the Zorath fleet profoundly aware of their limitations. Sensors confirmed the continued presence of the hidden human vessels. They remained cloaked, silent, and ready to act. The broadcast had ensured that every alien ship understood the humans' capability and reach. Even without direct engagement, the humans had established control over the encounter. Admiral XY Thor realized that any attempt at aggression would be anticipated and countered. Retreat or surrender might save the fleet, but the lesson would remain. The humans had already won in the domain that mattered most: knowledge and preparation. The alien officers began to comprehend the full scope of what they faced. Humanity did not need fleets of thousands to assert dominance. A single ship, combined with patience, foresight, and discipline, could study an entire armada and emerge victorious without traditional combat. The humans had demonstrated that war could be won through understanding, adaptation, and calm calculation. They had turned observation into power and learning into weaponry. As the broadcast ended, the human warship remained perfectly still, calm, and silent. The hidden fleet lingered in the shadows, unseen but fully prepared. The Zorath fleet was left to process the implications. They were no longer the hunters. They were the subjects. Every move they had made, every strategy they had deployed, had been incorporated into human understanding. The war had shifted from physical confrontation to the battlefield of intellect, preparation, and foresight. Admiral XY Thor stared at the screen, understanding at last the terrifying truth. The humans had broadcast a message not to intimidate, not to attack, but to declare victory in a form no alien had ever encountered. The Zorath fleet had been studied, their reactions analyzed, and their weaknesses recorded. Humanity did not seek war. Yet when confronted, it ensured that no enemy would face it unprepared. The encounter had concluded in favor of the humans, and the lesson was unmistakable: underestimate them, and defeat was inevitable. And as the alien fleet drifted in stunned silence, the human warship and its hidden companions remained calm, patient, and ever watchful, having completed the first stage of a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. The Zorath fleet remained frozen in space, unsure of how to respond. The human warship floated silently, calm, and precise, as if time itself obeyed its rules. The hidden fleet, still cloaked, waited in the void, ready to act only if needed. Admiral XY Thor understood that the encounter had already reached its conclusion, not through destruction, not through overwhelming force, but through mastery of observation and patience. The humans had turned a single vessel into a weapon of understanding, and the Zorath fleet had become nothing more than a lesson. Alien officers whispered among themselves, questioning what had just happened. Every assumption they had made about numbers, firepower, and intimidation had been proven irrelevant. The human ship had survived every test, every probe, every hesitation from the Zorath fleet. Its calm demeanor, its disciplined crew, and its adaptive systems had transformed what should have been a vulnerable target into the dominant presence in the encounter. Admiral XY Thor realized with bitter clarity that the humans had won without firing a single major weapon. The AI aboard the human warship continued its silent work, integrating every detail of the Zorath fleet's behavior into its growing intelligence database. Weapon charge times, response delays, emotional indicators, and command conflicts were all recorded and analyzed. The AI did not boast. It did not taunt. It simply existed as an instrument of learning and adaptation. Every decision the Zorath fleet made was predicted, catalogued, and used to improve future engagements. The humans had turned knowledge into their ultimate weapon. Then the AI transmitted a new message, brief and calm. Data collection complete. Analysis finalized. Tactical understanding achieved. Future encounters prepared for. The words were simple, almost polite, yet they carried an unspoken weight. The human ship had fully assessed the Zorath fleet, and in doing so, had gained the advantage that no amount of raw firepower could match. The fleet had been studied, measured, and understood in its entirety. Admiral XY Thor felt the crushing certainty of their defeat, not in combat, but in comprehension. Alien officers debated their next move. Some argued for immediate withdrawal, believing that preserving the fleet might allow them to recover. Others urged caution, knowing that any action could feed further data to the human AI. Every suggestion was met with hesitation, every command questioned. The humans had engineered the situation to create indecision and hesitation, proving that even without aggression, a strategic advantage could be absolute. The Zorath fleet was trapped in a psychological battlefield where every movement played into human hands. The human warship adjusted its systems quietly, subtly reinforcing armor, rerouting power, and refining internal processes. The hidden fleet remained stationary, observing and waiting. The aliens realized that even if they fired their entire arsenal, the humans had already prepared for it. Every energy beam, every maneuver, every potential strike had been integrated into the AI's calculations. The Zorath fleet could no longer surprise, intimidate, or outmaneuver the humans. They had already lost control. Admiral XY Thor took a deep breath and addressed the fleet. "We have underestimated them," he said, voice tight with unease. "They have studied us, learned from us, and gained control without firing a weapon. Our strength means nothing against knowledge applied with precision and discipline." The words echoed through the command chamber. Alien officers felt the truth settle over them like a shadow. They had faced many enemies, but never one that used patience and observation as a weapon. The AI broadcasted again, calm and deliberate. "Future encounters will be informed by current data. Enemy strengths, weaknesses, and patterns recorded. Efficiency of response optimized. Tactical supremacy established." The humans did not demand surrender. They did not threaten. They simply declared that the encounter was over in their favor. The Zorath fleet was left with no illusions of advantage. Every action, every hesitation, every command had been incorporated into human understanding. The war had been won by intellect, discipline, and observation. The alien fleet slowly began to maneuver, though without confidence. They attempted to regroup, to restore order, to reassert control. The human warship observed each movement, its sensors integrating the new data instantly. Adjustments were made with perfect timing, without visible effort. The humans had prepared not only for the fleet's initial responses but for every possible correction, every attempt at recovery. Admiral XY Thor realized that escape or retaliation would achieve nothing. The humans had accounted for it all. Officers muttered among themselves, fear and awe mixing in their voices. Some compared the encounter to the greatest defeats in their history. Others whispered that this was unlike anything they had ever faced. The human warship, calm and silent, had demonstrated that patience, discipline, and adaptation could achieve what fleets of thousands could not. They had transformed observation into dominance, calculation into supremacy, and endurance into power. Finally, the human warship transmitted one last message. "We have completed our assessment. Knowledge acquired. Systems optimized. We will observe further, but engagement is unnecessary unless provoked." The simplicity of the message was chilling. The humans did not need to destroy the Zorath fleet. They had already proven superiority. Observation had achieved what firepower could not. Every alien officer felt the weight of the truth. They were no longer the hunters. They were the studied. Admiral XY Thor stared at the silent ship, understanding the terrifying reality. Humanity had turned a single warship into a weapon far more dangerous than any cannon or missile. The humans had demonstrated that survival, discipline, and learning could outweigh numbers and energy. They had mastered the battlefield through intelligence and patience, showing the Zorath fleet that even a single vessel, guided by insight and calculation, could dominate an entire armada. The hidden human vessels remained in place, cloaked and ready, their presence a reminder of the silent power of preparation. The Zorath fleet had learned the most important lesson of all: underestimating humanity was fatal. The humans had achieved victory not through force, but through understanding. Every action, every hesitation, every misstep of the aliens had been recorded and integrated into a system that would ensure future superiority. And as the Zorath fleet drifted in stunned silence, the human warship floated calmly in the void, its AI observing, recording, and adapting, completing the final stage of a lesson that would echo across the stars. Humanity had not merely survived, they had triumphed, proving that knowledge, patience, and discipline were more powerful than fleets, firepower, or fear. The lesson was complete, and the galaxy would remember it.